Whilst the immediate impacts of COVID-19 have been felt in many ways already, there are still areas of supplier risk that remain elevated as a result of the pandemic. The first key elevated risk domain is cyber risk, which has increased in a few ways. Firstly, there's been an uptick in the number of COVID-19 related phishing and ransomware attacks. Secondly, and probably the most notable from a supplier risk perspective, are the heightened attempts at using third parties as a stage point to attack organisations through the pandemic. Finally, cyber and information security risks have increased due to the significant portion of the community working from home. In environments that may have been established quite quickly at the onset of the pandemic, and with less controls in place than what would typically be in a corporate office environment. As a result, there is increased scope for not only cyber attacks, but also information disclosure through mediums such as the use of personal USB drives, printing on personal printers, etc. This also has an impact from a data privacy and protection perspective, with heightened potential for suppliers to handle personally identifiable information in a manner that doesn't comply with the Privacy Act. There have been instances noted of people redirecting sensitive mail to their home addresses, setting up shared drives with poor access controls, etc., all of which pose a heightened risk of data loss. Another elevated risk area is around virtual workplaces, with the increased volume of people working from home. The notable risk here is where a supplier organisation may operate a key control that is specific to an office or similar location, for example, administrator terminals. It's important to understand if any of these controls apply to your service, and if so, the associated impact. Operational resilience is of course a key one, and probably the most common one that springs to mind when thinking about your suppliers. The additional element that also needs consideration, however, is the impact of fourth-party relationships in the delivery of services to your organisation, and if they are facing any business continuity issues that may have a downstream impact to your organisation. Financial viability is another key risk area. It's important to consider your key supplier's ability to continue operating as a going concern. And finally, from a health and safety perspective, given the contagious nature of the virus, consideration of the government-stipulated health and safety requirements that are in place across both states and countries and regularly changing is important in understanding any impacts this may have from a service delivery perspective. Many organisations will already have effective supplier risk management processes in place. Anchoring into these processes and augmenting them as required to sharpen the focus around the key COVID-19 impacted risk areas will enable you to efficiently and effectively continue managing these risks.